Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at the first of two stakes races for two-year-olds at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. Race number 7 is the kickoff leg of a 50-cent pick 4, and it's for the boys. Let's take a look at the field for the Renaissance, going 3/4 of a mile, a field of 7, and a lot of eyes are going to be on the Steve Asmussen trained pair of the 2 Valentine Candy, already a stakes winner at this Oaklawn meet, and the 3 Booth, who was a super impressive debut winner at Keeneland, but then disappointed as the chalk last time at Churchill.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Booth was able to beat Nash. We know how Nash came back and didn't win in that most recent outing, but did win after that race. I think the big thing to kind of look at just in general, it's a really challenging card, right, Dan? We're going to talk about two-year-old races, but the entire program is 2-year-olds. And I think it's going to be interesting to see who progresses. It's obviously late in the season, but I think now some horses are going to come around and kind of turn the corner and then gear up for a really big 3-year-old campaign.
We'll throw up the time form US pace projector. They're 2-year-olds. They're sprinting. We're expecting a fast pace. And if Booth shows the speed that he did in his first 2 starts, he's likely going to make the lead. I'm not sure if the 4 Normandy Hero is as fast as Booth. The 6 Tayon Pass has shown some speed. Valentine Candy's quick as well, but I think if Booth breaks, he makes the front.
I agree. I do think if he wants the lead, he can probably have it in here, just looking at the races that he's come out of. It's going to be interesting, though. At the 6 furlong distance, I could see a couple of other horses being involved, and I do think the 6 is one of them, just based on what we've seen so far.
If the pace really does heat up and is contested, keep an eye out for the 1 Google Joke, who has the LP flag over his chiclet. That indicates he has the fastest time form US late pace rating. And speaking of Google Joke, he did some decent things in his career debut at Keeneland, albeit in a $50,000 maiden claimer. Came right back to win at the fairgrounds last time out. This is a horse that's going to need some pace, and he's going to need to break relatively sharp from the inside post, lest he be far behind early.
Yeah, you look at those 2 races and you wonder if 6 furlongs is really his end goal, right? I feel like he probably wants to go a little bit further, unable to do so in this race, though, but hard to knock. Even his debut was a decent effort. Nice to see him actually step up in class next time out against maiden specialweight competition and get the job done.
Valentine Candy's only bad race was in the Grade 1 Hopeful. You could probably give him a mulligan for that. He has already proven himself at Oaklawn Park this winter with this victory in the Advent Stakes. He looked good in here. He was up close to a solid pace. He makes the lead in the stretch, and once he changed leads right there, he's on his way. This is a pretty authoritative last 1/8 of a mile.
I thought this was a huge performance. We're going to get an 84 Beyer speed figure, which technically isn't his career best, but it's close enough to it. And he's just going to draw clear easy here. I thought it was an improved performance. Thought he's a little disappointing in the Bowman Mill, but look who comes out of that. He's going to have to face Normandy Hero again in the winner, Glenn Gary. I think we're both a little bit of a fan of. It's been a nice horse so far. So no disrespect to even his effort two back.
We'll see which Booth we get. Is it the one that dazzled in his career debut, just blasted to the front, didn't give that field a chance? Nash, as you mentioned, seems talented. He came back, won very impressively, then was beaten in a stake, as was Booth last time out, who was bet to odds on. He faced a little bit more pressure that time around, and I'm not sure he was used to it. Perhaps he gets an easier lead this time.
Yeah, and you wonder, and it's kind of the similar story when you talk about Nash was able to finish second behind him, graduates, and then bounced in his next effort, which I believe was at the fairgrounds. When you see a 96 Beyer speed figure, they certainly usually go off favorite in their next start, regardless of the spot. But sometimes I wonder if that effort takes a little bit out of them and they need a race to regroup. So he's a horse that, yes, I think he disappointed last time out, but to say that he couldn't rebound here, I think that'd be false. I think he's got a big shot to take a step forward once again.
Number 4, Normandy Hero, might be a little bit underrated. He's already finished ahead of Valentine Candy twice, including beating him in a nice first-level allowance try at Keeneland. He was very professional for a 2-year-old in that race, sort of tracking in the pocket, then altering course back up the inside to win. His most recent start was an even performance at Churchill Downs, where he was, again, off the pace, kind of had to ease his way to the far outside in the stretch, and he finished ahead of Booth. So he's finished ahead of both Asmussen-trained runners already, and he might actually be a playable price here.
He might, and I think he might get the right trip, Dan. Looking at his last couple, he sat just off the pace, and he's tried to make one late run. And I think if the pace is just quick enough for him, he can do the same thing and maybe get a bigger piece than he was able to last time out.
Here's something you don't see every day. The 5 General Shipman's a Nebraska bred, and one of his first 2 starts, including a stakes race at Prairie Meadows. He's really a Nebraska bred in name only, being by Midshipman out of an Into Mischief mare. 2 starts against Stakes Company, though, out of Iowa haven't been as good.
They haven't been as good. You wonder if he maybe needed that race after having about 8 weeks off. And then last time out, he did tire going at 5.5 and he was forward. And it's going to be tough to maybe make a case for him here. It's actually surprising that race at Remington, he went off as the favorite, didn't show anything. Could have understand maybe giving him one more shot. But last time out, Valentine Candy ended up being much the best. So he would really need to turn things around.
Tayon Pass brings some Southern California speed to the party for trainer Peter Miller, gate-to-wire winner at Santa Anita over a wet track 2 starts back, then just got kind of cooked in the Bob Hope. But there's no disgrace in losing to a horse like Nysos, who's probably one of the best 2-year-old sprinters, if not one of the best top 10 2-year-olds in the country right now. I wonder if Tayon Pass tries to take this race to Booth early.
He could. Certainly looking at the race 2 back when he was able to score the maiden victory, you wonder if he will be forwardly placed. And we saw that in the time, form, pace projection. He figures to be quite forward. I wouldn't be surprised to see him apply that pressure early. I wonder with the Bob Hope, you mentioned Nysos, how good the horse is. He wins by a lot in there. So that sort of minimizes that margin of defeat for this one being 12 lengths when the winner wins by nearly 9. But the other thing is with 7 Ace, I'm actually curious to see him now cut back to 6 furlongs. I think that should help his chances.
The 7 is frost-free. He's going to complete this field. And the Gray was a debut winner over a wet track at Lone Star Park. And I'm willing to be a little bit forgiving of the Advent because he didn't break well and then rushed up to make the lead. And that trip never seems to work out. Frost-free, understandably tiring, especially in his first race off a 6-month layoff. I can see him doing better. He's going to have to.
He's going to certainly need to. Even his graduation score, that number is probably not competitive against these horses. But I think the big thing is, at least if you're comparing him and say General Shipman, well, he probably needed that race. Now he's going to make that second start since June. There is a little upside there, but still would need to improve dramatically.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Renaissance at Oaklawn. You're going with Valentine Candy, course and distance winner, and sure looked good last time out. Might get the right trip. This guy is pace adaptable.
Yeah, that's, I think, the main reason I use him on top. I thought on paper, him and Normandy Hero were the 2 standouts. You can make a case for either of them, but I'm going to go with the one trained by Steve Asmussen. I like that Joel Rosario climbs the board, and I was just visually impressed by that last out at Oaklawn.
I'm hoping Normandy Hero has Valentine Candy's number. He's finished ahead of him twice already, and I think a good trip is coming, sitting behind Booth and Southern California Invader Tayon Pass. 2463 for Ashley, 4236 for me. It's the Renaissance on a 2-year-old day of racing at Oaklawn. Good luck.